If you're like me, you love decorating in the fall with a plethora of pumpkins on the porch. It's a great way to get into the festive spirit of the harvest season. It really is a great, beautiful, and organic decoration that adds tons of curb appeal. But what do we do with them when the season's over? As gardeners, we're trained to take anything organic and try to make more use of it. What better way to extend the usefulness of your pumpkins after the fall harvest season than to take your fall decoration and turn them into next spring's compost? Pumpkins are a fantastic source of nitrogen. That green material that when combined with brown material in your compost pile absolutely speeds things up, gets stuff cooking, and gets you compost sooner. And because of the time of year, it being late fall when your pumpkins are finally spent and ready to go into the compost, what better thing to add to your compost to really accelerate things as the weather is starting to cool? Toward the end of the season, you're going to want to let your pumpkins sit on the porch for a little bit longer than what might make you comfortable. But trust me, it's okay. And it's even better if you let it wait until the first frost or the first hard freeze. Allowing that first frost or freeze to get to them is really going to help with them breaking down, because then all you have to do is wait for a little bit of a warmer day, a day where the pumpkins get a chance to thaw out a little bit. As they do that, they're going to break down some, and as they break down, it makes it much easier for you to break them down into your compost. Now, when adding pumpkins to your compost pile, you can do it with a freshly started pile, or you can add it to an existing pile. It's your choice. Just dump the pumpkins into the pen and give them a good chop. You're going to want to be careful here because you want to make sure that the chops are small enough to where they start to break down. Remember, we might have a limited amount of time here depending on where you live and depending on what the weather looks like, but we don't need to overdo it. You're not looking to make a slurry here. You're really just chopping things up into manageable pieces so they can start to break down. You're giving it a bit of a head start. Now you could just dump your whole pumpkins in here, cover them up, and call it a day, but it's going to take a while for those to break down. And the whole reason why we're doing this is to speed things up, right? We want to get accelerated. So give it a jump start by chopping them up. It does take a little bit of extra effort, but I promise you the effort is worth it. Now, when you give your pumpkins a good chop, you're going to see a lot of seeds coming out. But I wouldn't worry about those seeds. Now, yes, you might have a stray seed or three germinate in the spring once things start to warm up, but that's okay. Pumpkin sprouting in your compost pile doesn't mean it has officially become your new pumpkin patch. All it means is you can take your garden fork, you can take your shovel, you can turn the compost, and you can reintroduce those seedlings back into your compost pile as new green materials. Now, of course, one of the things that you'll want to make sure that you're doing when you're adding pumpkins to your compost is that you're not just adding the pumpkins. You want to ensure that you're balancing things out with a good amount of brown material. If you just introduce a bunch of pumpkins into your compost and you don't give it the right balance of brown material versus green, you're going to end up with a cold, sludgy mess. Now that's still going to become compost. You never have to worry about that. What's organic will break down, it'll become compost, and you'll be able to use it in your garden. But if you want to accelerate things, and that's what we're doing here, we're giving our compost pile a jump start in late fall, early winter. As things start to cool off, we're going to make sure that the compost pile stays heated up. As it stays heated up, those aerobic bacteria, those microbes that help break things down and create the compost for you, are going to stay hard at work. Now, once the pumpkins are chopped to your liking, add a good bit of brown material on top. You don't have to mix things up too much. You actually want the nitrogen to be in the center of the pile because that's where the heat's going to come from. For your brown materials, it's the standard stuff that we always talk about. Use prunings from dead, dry garden materials from fall cleanup. You can use sawdust, or my favorite, shredded cardboard and brown paper. I also find that this point is a good idea to add some of my existing garden compost into the new pile. What that does is it serves to provide a great first introduction between your new pile and your garden's microbes so they can start getting to work. And if you treat your compost pile right and ensure that it's getting the right mixture of brown and green materials, you can see it stay heated all the way throughout the winter to where the middle of your compost pile could hit temperatures of 120 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit, even if it's in the teens or 20s outside. Now, a trick here, of course, is that you want to trap in as much heat as possible. So when it starts to get cold outside, you only want to turn your compost pile maybe once every week or 10 days. What matters is that you do what it takes in order to keep the heat in the pile. You don't want to let the heat escape. The heat escaping is bad because that's what's cooking things down. That's what's creating your compost. So you don't want to let the heat escape, but you still do have to turn things to make sure that you're keeping things active and make sure that the bacteria are getting the needed nutrition to help break down your compost. Now, to keep out the chill, you're going to want to cover with tarp or some old carpet, some straw, or my favorite, sheets of cardboard. Covering your compost pile serves multiple key purposes. One, it can keep some critters out. Two, it helps you regulate the moisture so you don't have to worry about it turning into sludge. And three, when you cover your pile, it's insulating. It's keeping the heat in and it's keeping the cold out. Now at this point, as usual, you're going to want to make sure that you're introducing some moisture into the pile. Now you can do this by just giving it a quick rinse, or you can pre-soak your brown materials like shredded cardboard before incorporating it into the pile to help things activate. Now you may see that things start to slow down, and that's normal, especially in areas like mine. My 5B garden, we're going to get well below 0 degrees Fahrenheit come January and February. But that's okay. We've already given our compost pile a nice head start in late fall, early winter. So then when things start to warm up and we can start turning our compost pile again, it's already more than halfway there, which is great, because that means that we can add some more materials into the compost. It'll cook down that much more quickly in spring, and then by late spring, early summer, we'll be using compost straight from this pile. If you still have pumpkin decorations on your front porch and you're trying to figure out what to do with them at the end of the season, don't throw them away and send them to a landfill. Pop them into a compost pile. Next year's garden will thank you.